The Oscar nominations were announced, and the 10 nominees for Best Picture are Begonia, F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Train Dreams. But what is Best Picture? How does this all work, and why should we care? The Oscars are the awards given out by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which is a group of over 10,500 people that work professionally in the film industry. There are 19 different branches in the Academy that each represent a different area of expertise. They definitely don't cover every possible job, but they do include many of the major roles involved in making a movie.
The process for me always starts with the script.
I think the score needed even more of was buoyancy.
Paul's the only person that can make a car chase scene exciting that had 3 cars and nobody switching lanes.
It's one of our first sets, and it sort of set the tone for what our Frankenstein would be.
Now, you might be tempted to think each of those branches equates to a specific Academy Award, but that's not quite how it works. For instance, there's a branch of executives, but we don't have a Best Executive Award. There are currently 24 different award categories. And that list does change from time to time. For instance, Best Casting is a new category. There are certain qualifications that a movie needs to meet to be nominated for an Oscar. For instance, most categories require a feature-length movie to be over 40 minutes and to be screened in theaters 3 times a day for at least a week, with one of those screenings being between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., which is why a movie like Frankenstein is able to be nominated even if it never even made it to a theater near you. So by the end of the year, there's a list of eligible movies that gets sent out to Academy members. For most of the categories, only members from the branch that correlates with the award would vote for a nomination. So members of the director's branch would vote to nominate other directors. But for the biggest and most prestigious award, Best Picture, the entire Academy gets to vote. And some branches only get to vote in that category because they don't have an award that correlates with their branch. Once all the nominees are selected and it comes time to choose the actual winner, the entire Academy can vote for all categories. Most of the categories determine the winner by plurality, which just means whoever gets the most votes wins. But that's not how Best Picture works. For that, the members rank the 10 nominees, and whichever movie gets over 50% of the votes wins. If a single movie doesn't get over 50%, then the movie with the least votes is eliminated, and people who voted for that as their top choice have their votes added to the film that was next on their list. If their second choice was eliminated, then their vote counts for their third pick, and so on. And to my knowledge, there's never been an exact definition given for what Best Picture means.
There's a reason they say Best Motion Picture for last. It's the sum of all the ingredients, the end of a journey that always starts with a dream.
Obviously, each voter gets to pick their personal preference, but are they just choosing the one they enjoyed the most? Or is it the one they believe best utilized all the different aspects of filmmaking to tell its story? Or is it the movie their friend made? Who knows, but it's also worth noting that members are not required to watch all of the nominated movies to vote. They're asked to only vote for movies they have seen, and they don't have to vote in every category. They can choose to abstain, but it's entirely up to them. So, the Academy Awards is essentially the film industry awarding itself. And yes, there's a lot of inner conflicts that go on, not only because the Oscars are prestigious, but because they can often help bolster careers for people and profits for movies. All that said, we can view the Oscars as people in the film industry awarding their own peers, as opposed to something like the Golden Globes. Those awards are given out for both film and TV by a voting body of international entertainment journalists. So the Golden Globes are essentially given by the press. Then you have the Critics' Choice Awards, which are given out by a voting body of over 600 members that represents journalists and critics. Then each of the different unions and guilds that represent certain crafts will give awards, like the Screen Actors Guild or the Writers Guild. And we could go on and on because there's tons of different organizations that give out awards during this time of year. So why do the Oscars usually feel like they're the most prestigious award? Well, a big part of it is historical legacy. They've existed since 1929. And since it's the people who professionally make movies that vote for the movies they think were the best of the year, it can also feel like they're the most knowledgeable. Aside from that, the Oscars have always been heavily publicized, and as I mentioned earlier, they can have big financial impacts because of that. But most of us in the general audience will not be members of the Academy, so why should we care about the Oscars? Well, first off, we should always keep in mind that the Oscars are not some definitive authority on good movies. It's actually impossible to declare that a movie was the best of the year in any official way because that's subjective. But at the same time, it's no small feat to be one of these 10 movies that were nominated out of hundreds of possibilities each year. Movies act like a window through time. In the future, people will look back on 2025, and one of the tools they'll use to learn about us is the art that was created, recognized, and consumed. So if we take a look at these 10 movies, we can take a cultural snapshot. We can consider what these movies are about, who they appeal to, and why they're being recognized. By answering these questions, we can see a kind of reflection of our current culture. Which is why, as we lead up to the Academy Awards in March, I'll be doing breakdowns of each of the 10 Best Picture nominees. But I'll specifically be looking at them through the lens of why I think they were nominated. I did this last year as well, and one of the major themes I had caught on to was power dynamics, and specifically the abuse of power. These stories often featured characters that were at the mercy of powerful people, and rarely did those powerful people choose to use their position to help anyone. I'm I'm curious to see if we'll find another shared theme amongst our movies this year. So as we go along, I'd love to hear your thoughts and insights on these movies, and I'd love to hear what you think defines Best Picture. I'm looking forward to chatting with you about it.